We are turning our attention to F1 now, because joining us to take a little look back on what transpired over in Doha at Sunday's Qatar Grand Prix, it is ARN's resident F1 expert, ARN's News Centre's wonderful Noni Edwards. Hot topic, loads to discuss. Great to have you in.
Hot topic.
See what I've done there? I say I've done it. You've done it all for me, because a lot of the, I guess, talk, a lot of the chitter-chatter after the race wasn't necessarily the result. It was the punishing conditions. Tell us more.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so we live here in Dubai. We're used to a very hot summer. If someone says to us that the track temperature was between 36 and 40 degrees, we're like, so what?
Standard.
Yeah. Your point?
Yeah, exactly. However, then you think about being in a cockpit. In the cockpit. You think about having the car in front with an exhaust. You think about those fireproof suits and fireproof underwear.
You think about the lack of air conditioning.
There's no AC, there's no fans blowing
air. The fact that their water tube is already boiling hot. So you're drinking tea temperatured water to cool down. I mean, you were seeing the drivers there opening their visors just to try and get airflow into their eyes to breathe. You saw George Russell, Mercedes, having his hands up on top of the steering wheel, steering with his wrists to try and direct airflow to him. It was hot.
Is that what he was doing?
Yes.
I wondered.
Yeah. I saw an analysis
of that. Is there not a regulation on the max temperature that is safe for racing, medically safe for racing, and surely Qatar exceeded it?
The FIA have come out now, but did you want to hear what Liam Lawson, the rookie, had to say about it?
Yeah.
Let's hear what he had to say about this, and he compared to what he was told was the hottest race.
I think, Singapore is meant to be the toughest race. That's the one that everyone's like, once you do Singapore, it gets easier from there.
Easy after that.
It didn't feel like it today. And looking at a lot of other guys, I think it was tough for all of us. So, I think we didn't expect it to be this tough. Obviously, it's pretty extreme. In a normal situation, you get to the straight, you sort of get a bunch of cold air coming through the helmets. But here, you're getting such hot air that it's just obviously tough to breathe. And I think, as I said, when you're fighting the car a lot, you're obviously having to do so much. For me, I was really struggling throughout the whole race to honestly just stay on track. That I think made it a bit extra tough.
Now, Noni, it's fair to say, when I look at my number one sport, football, there have been mistakes made, there have been issues, and the powers that be kind of sit on their hands for a few days. The FIA, thankfully, they do seem to have their finger on the pulse, because they've wasted little time in saying, we're going to look into this.
Yeah, I mean, they've acknowledged that it was putting them at risk. It was to the extent that Aston Martin's Lance Stroll said that he was passing in and out of consciousness.
How mental is that?
The other rookie, Logan Sargent, had to retire because he couldn't handle it. Esteban Ocon admitted after the race that between laps 15 and 16, he was vomiting in his helmet.
Oh my God!
And he didn't tell his race engineer at the time. He only admitted it afterwards.
I mean, that is brutal.
So, the FIA have taken all this obviously on board. They've come out this morning. They're saying that they are taking action to protect drivers in future. This could include guidance for competitors, more research into modifications for more efficient airflow in the cockpit, recommendations for changes to the calendar. Now, Qatar is going to run next year in December. It's going to be 6 weeks later. So already that's going to be...
Yeah, it'll make a difference. Yeah. Conditions slightly cooler in December. I guess the heat wasn't the only issue for Mr. Russell, was it? Because he got into a skirmish with his own teammate Lewis Hamilton in the first lap. Tell us more about that.
Such a disappointment, this first lap. I mean, it made for good watching, but such a disappointment. Mercedes had been tipped for a double podium. I mean, they were fast. However, it wasn't to be. I think the fatal flaw was that they had George on the front row in P2. They had Lewis behind in the second row in position 3. However, they put Lewis on the faster tyres. So obviously he got a bit of a jump start on George. And even Max, he was ahead of Max at one point. However, he just took that corner a little bit too sharp. He left George with nowhere to go. They came together, both of them spun off. Lewis lost his tyre, had to retire. His immediate reaction was, I've been run off by my own teammate. However, upon reflection, he saw that George had nothing. George was sandwiched. He couldn't do anything. So Lewis then said he was gutted.
Yeah, he fessed up. Take a listen.
Yeah, obviously gutting, and massive apology to everyone back at the factory. yeah, it was just I think it's just probably a racing incident, but I take full responsibility for it. I don't think George really had anywhere to go. So
He's having a miserable season, isn't he?
He is having a miserable season.
Well, he's in the running for number 2 still. I mean, he could take second spot from Sergio Perez.
He could, but he's not come really within a sniff of actually winning a race. And for a guy that's won so many,
yeah, I mean,
he dominated. It can't be easy for him to be relegated to a support act.
Yeah.
I mean, that is really what all he is, and he's actually battling there with a much more junior, less experienced teammate who's clearly got
him.
got the measure of him.
I know.
Yeah.
So
he doesn't usually make mistakes like that.
No, he doesn't.
I mean, that was a rare thing, and he did own up to it.
Fair play to that. It was a miserable weekend then for Mercedes. It was a wonderful weekend. We're rolling back the years here, Noni. We're going back to the Mika Hakkinen and David Coulthard days because McLaren, okay, the winner, we'll get to that. But
wow.
P2 and 3 owned by McLaren.
Wow. Okay, so McLaren had, probably the best they could have hoped for. I don't think they would have hoped for it. They got the double podium finish. It was Lando Norris in number 3 and Oscar Piastri in number 2, the rookie. And they clocked the world's fastest ever pit stop at 1.8 seconds.
Oh, that's confirmed.
Yes.
The fastest ever pit stop.
They had a blinder in the Grand Prix.
Wow.
Yeah. So they had the double podium. Now, Piastri went from strength to strength. He got pole position in the sprint race on Saturday and managed to convert that into his inaugural F1 win. He was playing it down, saying, I don't know if I'd call it an F1 win. It is an F1 win. It is a sprint race. It's not the Grand Prix win, but it is his first F1 win. And, okay, now, let me go into stats territory here. So Daniel Ricciardo was with McLaren. He won in Monza. He had his sole victory, his sole success with McLaren in 2021. Won for McLaren in Monza. Prior to that, the last time that McLaren had a win in Formula One was in 2012 in Melbourne with Jenson Button. So between 2012 and now, the only 2 victories for McLaren have been by Aussies.
Interesting.
I like that one.
Now, Damien Reid, he has come out to say in his race commentary, and Damo, we love you, whatever you are, he is tipping Oscar Piastri to emerge, maybe, just maybe, as Max Verstappen's main rival.
We know how much Damien has always backed Piastri.
Yes.
When we were getting all upset with the whole debacle with Alpine and all the contract arrangements there, Damien stood by him. He said he is a one to watch. He is the real deal. He is now saying that he's the pretender.
Yeah,
he's the one who's going to take on Max Verstappen. However,
he's going to find a car.
Someone has to.
Someone has, exactly.
I don't know if the McLaren's hot. It was
hot.
It was tipped to be the best car at the race because if you think about the two McLarens versus the 2 Red Bulls, where was Sergio?
Where was Sergio? But who won? And let's get to that because we rip this like a quick band-aid. Robbie, ear muff it, cover your ears. You're not going to be happy with this. Max Verstappen wins again.
3rd 3 times world champion.
The thing that really is galling for me is that he did it with 6 races to spare.
Yeah.
I mean, forget going down to the wire. Let's just get it down to the last 2 or 3 if we can.
Yeah, you know what the F1's become in footballing parlance? It's become the Scottish Premiership. It's done and dusted by, January, February. Celtic will have the title wrapped up probably by then, and Max Verstappen has got it wrapped up. I mean, it's a long way shy from the end of the season, and he's already champion.
Let's think about Oscar Piastri getting his inaugural Grand Prix win. Let's think about the battle for second. Let's think about the Constructors' Championships. Plenty more up in the air.
It. She is a girl.
Sport needs a balance of drama and jeopardy, and you want the glory, you want the champions. I think it's dominant figures in sport are always good, no matter what the sport. I think they pull in a different fan base and they're captivating because they're so fascinating that they reach such a level. And there's no doubt Max is a genius behind the wheel. No one's questioning that, but it's gotten to the point where he's a runaway freight train, and it's actually harming the sport, in my belief. It's not helping F1. You've got to have that fine balance.
I agree.
And you've got to have someone challenging him. You've got to have a more even playing field because there's always that thought, is it Max or is it the team that really is kind of responsible for this incredible success?
And out of nowhere, and hear me out here, just in the blink of an eye, he's already a 3-time world champion. Where the heck is that time?
I mean, he was a baby driver.
It's mental. That time, in the blink of an eye, he's a 3-time world champion.
When you think back to how on a knife edge his first was against Hamilton in the final lap, and had Hamilton held him off in that final lap, had that whole debacle not happened, who knows where both of those teams would have gone from there. But that was a real
catalyst,
sliding doors moment in the history of F1, that. And Lewis, that must still rankle Lewis today.
Sure
I will never get over the feeling of hurt in that race. I was down there watching it, and I left before the medal presentation.
Yeah, I think a lot of people did.
Trophy presentation.
Of course, if you're not a Max Verstappen fan, of course. But yeah, that does still leave a weird taste in the mouth. So it does. Noni Edwards, always great. Where are we off to now in the F1 road show?
Texas, 2 weeks'
Texas.
time, and Daniel Ricciardo is back. And we know how much he likes to get on a horse.
Oh, yes, he does. Over in Texas then. Can't wait for that. Noni Edwards, as always, thank you so much for popping in, talking all things F1.
Very welcome.
She is the biggest F1 fan in this building, so she is.